tossers have thrown it out the door with their behaviour this week. They should be ashamed of themselves. They should absolutely look at themselves in the mirror and wonder what the have they been doing. They're hissing at us and calling us cheats in the Lord's long room, and they have the gall to say, talk to us about the spirit of cricket. Absolute bullshit.
There's a big appeal that's hit him on the pad. He's out. Lions gone. New South Wales are 9 down. Onto Sydney Road, and it's hit a car. Oh, I think it's hit a car. What a way to bring up your 50.
All you want is to leave it all behind. Now there is a simple remedy to stay fit for all eternity.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Cricket Unfiltered podcast. I am Marnus, and we are here to discuss the Australian Test squad that will tour Sri Lanka at the end of this month. Joining me is good friend of the show, Sharbel Corey from Crickblog. Happy New Year, Sharbel. How are you?
Happy New Year, Marnus. Yeah, I'm good after that Border Gavaskar Trophy win. So feeling nice and happy after that. So, all well.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, great to have you. A great test series. I've still been receiving emails from people that were captivated by the cricket. So, yeah, terrific memories from the series. Australia victorious, but now they're off to Sri Lanka to play in Galle 2 test matches. And we'll get into the sort of the exclusions first and then who's going. Just jumped off a press conference with George Bailey, and he was asked whether the fact that Australia had qualified for the World Test Championship final already, whether that affected the makeup of the squad. And he said basically no, that this is about the squad they are always looking at. Maybe there was a couple of line ball decisions they leaned towards youth, but overall he said it wasn't affected by already qualifying. It said every test match you play for Australia is important. Yeah. So, my reading between the lines is that's a little bit of BS. Like, I think you've got to say that, but I think having already qualified, they could certainly take a few more risks.
I agree. That was my initial thought as well, that I don't know if they would pick Cooper Connolly and these guys if they hadn't qualified as yet. They might have gone a bit of a safer route. But because you've qualified, you can look to the future a little bit more. But I think it's just given a diplomatic response there. But I agree with you. I think there's probably a little bit of, we can take a risk or two more because, we have the luxury of that qualification now, which is great.
Yeah, and I guess let's start with the exclusions from the squad. Pat Cummins will miss the tour because he's expecting a child. And there was also something in the press release about him having a slight ankle complaint that was being managed throughout the series. Got no problem with him missing the tour for paternity leave. They're back-to-back test matches in Galle. It would not be good, even if he came just for the second one. It might be a bit disruptive. He wouldn't be adept at playing in the conditions. So happy for him to miss out. They've gone for Steve Smith as skipper. I'm really happy with that decision. He's a master tactician on the subcontinent. He's led the side in the past. What do you think?
I agree. And the evidence was there nearly 2 years ago in India now. So when Cummins had to leave India there for the unfortunate passing of his mother, Smith took over, and I thought he was excellent tactically in the last 2 tests of that series. So Smith as captain, I've got no issues with that at all. He's very, very good cricketing mind, and he'll lead the team well there.
Yes, Josh Hazlewood will miss the tour, still recovering from that injury he suffered through in the Border Gavaskar Trophy. Again, probably the sensible decision. A lot of cricket for Australia throughout this year. He certainly had his battles with injury. So I think leaving him here to recover and be ready for the Champions Trophy and then that World Test Championship final is the way to go.
Yeah, agree. Manage our fast bowlers as best you can, particularly given you're not going to play more than 2 maximum in your 11 over there. You might play 1 and play 3 spinners. That could be the way to go. So it's all right. It's a good opportunity to give those guys a bit of a rest. I think they're all going to play some IPL as well. And so we'll have some cricket heading into the middle of the year and then prepare for that World Test Championship final. So, I've got no issue with managing the guys, especially Cummins, because I know he's on paternity leave, but he bowled a lot of overs in that Border Gavaskar Trophy. I think he did bowl more than Bumrah in the end. So, a nice little rest for him from cricket would be good.
Yeah, yeah. And having already qualified for the final
Yeah,
does give a little bit of a
definitely.
luxury. Mitch Marsh, not in the squad. I think this is the end of his test career. I mean, it's hard to ever say it'll never happen again, but I can't see him ever playing test cricket again, not in this 16-player squad. They said that he's being left out to prepare for the Champions Trophy. That's a diplomatic way of saying he's been dropped.
Yeah,
Sharbel, can
yeah,
you
it
ever
is.
see him coming back?
Only if the other guys are injured, Menners. That's the only way, because you've got Cam Green there coming back too. You've got Aaron Hardy, who's another guy who could play for Australia one day as an all-rounder. And we saw how good Bo Webster was on debut. I find it very difficult for Marsh to come back. And no surprises left out of Sri Lanka. Playing spin is not his strength. So for him to have gone to Sri Lanka would have been a big surprise, put it that way. So
Yeah.
we may
You
have seen
can't
the last
bowl.
of him there, but let's see. Hopefully, he does well in the limited over stuff for the Aussies going forward. But yeah, Test cricket doesn't look good.
Yeah. And
You
go on,
can't
what
say
were
you
you
have
gonna
no chances.
Oh, yeah, he's had, 40 odd chances. And then, okay, so that actually is a good segue into the other two players that are left out. So Glenn Maxwell's dreams of adding to his 7 tests appear to be over. I'm happy with the decision. I do think you need to look to the future in the middle
Yeah,
order.
yeah,
Inglis, McSweeney, all the guys that are included in the team. I think it's the right way to go. I feel sorry for Maxwell, but it's interesting if you just look at, say, Mitch Marsh, 46 test matches. I think it is maybe 47 he played in the end.
yeah,
No, Glenn Maxwell, 7. I think if you asked anyone in the country who the better batter is, there would be one answer.
yeah.
And it
Agree,
wouldn't be
agree.
Mitch Marsh.
I think if Maxwell bowled seam, he would have played a lot more, given the conditions we typically play in. But I agree with you. I think 40 test difference between the two is a bit of an injustice to Maxi. And I'm also with you that, look, he's 35 years of age now, Maxi. Look to the future now, particularly with that World Test Championship final sewn up. I like the selections of McSweeney. I like the selection of Inglis. I'm sure we'll talk about Connolly. Give him that exposure, that experience over there, even if he's not playing a test. So, look, I don't mind looking to the future. We always, have a go at the Aussie selectors. You're not looking to the future enough, guys. And now they're doing it, and they still cop a bit of criticism from some parts. But you can't please everyone. But looking to the future, I think, is a good way to go about it.
Yeah, they have to turn the page and blood some
Yeah.
players. But just on a sort of 1v1 basis, I mean, if Australia was going to Sri Lanka needing to get a result,
Yeah.
You can make a compelling argument that Maxwell has a better chance of doing well than McSweeney, Inglis, Connolly, Constas. Like, you can make a compelling case.
Yes.
If we
Yes.
needed to win, you take
Yeah.
Maxwell.
Of course. Yeah, that's what I was saying before about the World Test Championship final qualification. If you have to win and was must win, you got to win 2-0 or something. I reckon Maxwell would have been on the plane because he's a match winner. He bowls spin and he can score those runs in the middle order. But yeah, it is what it is for Maxi, I suppose. Deserve to play more Test cricket, I reckon. But these things happen.
Yeah, like Marsh, I don't think we'll ever see him in the baggy green again.
Yeah, yeah.
And then the other one, Peter Hanscom, he has been not picked, but actually George Bailey did reveal he is the next player on standby if a batter goes down. So he's on standby for the tour. And there's and Bailey made the point, there's a lot of cricket to be played out in the BBL for some of these players. So there's every chance someone could tweak something and not be able to tour. Hanscom will be the next player in. Again, it's a bit like Maxwell. He's very good on the subcontinent, Hanscom, but we've got to be looking to India in 2 years with this tour, get some experience into the middle order. And
Agree.
Yeah. So
I thought Hanscom would be there, given how good he is defensively against spin, and he's having a good Shield season. But as I said, looking to the future, fair enough.
Yep. So to the inclusion. So I guess let's start with the fast bowlers. Australia have taken 3 fast bowlers, Stark, Boland, and Sean Abbott. And I think what you outlined before is it's very possible Australia plays 3 spin bowlers, 1 fast bowler, which you would imagine would be Stark for one of those games. The test matches are very close together. You can imagine Stark actually just playing both of them because he's so good with reverse swing. And then you've got Webster to take the new ball, and then you bring on the spinners.
Correct. Yeah, I wondered the Sean Abbott selection. I don't know if he'll have a big role in this tour because of that point. You're not going to play, more than 2 fast
Mm.
bowlers, if that. So that could have been potentially another batsman in there, possibly. But yeah, I think Stark. Look, he's got a bit of that side back worry as well, and it's 3 weeks away the start of the tour. So he'll probably play one if I was to guess, and maybe Boland the other, because if there's a bit of up and down, Boland can exploit that as well. But Gaul is spin. Particularly left arm spin. Kuhnemann has to be one of the first players on the team sheet because of how important left arm spin is there.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
you probably play 1 or 2 seamers max. Bo Webster can chip in with some seam if you need to there as well, and spin to win. Absolutely.
So Australia have picked 3 spinners, and they've gone with complete finger spin only. Obviously, the
I
GOAT
agree with that.
Nathan. Yeah, they've
Yeah.
gone with Lyon, Murphy, and Kuhnemann. And we've seen all 3 of those play in the Indian Test Series in 2023. I think you can expect all 3 to start. If the pitches are as expected, then I imagine all 3 will start.
Yeah, I highly doubt a Gaul surface would have something in it for the fast bowlers, given Australia's pace reserves. I don't think Sri Lanka will do that. They'll play to their strengths. But if by playing to their strengths, the pitch spins from day one, that brings our spinners into it. And, we saw that in the India tour a couple of years ago in that 3rd test when it was a raging turner. That was the game we won. So if it's spinning a lot, it brings our spinners into it as well, and go with 3 spinners. And you got Webster there and, one of Stark and or Boland. That's a decent enough attack, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, the wicketkeepers for Australia, they've gone for Alex Carey, obviously. Josh Inglis is the backup. I wouldn't rule out Inglis playing as a batter in this series. They really rate the way he plays spin bowling. He can sweep, he can reverse, he can do it all. And I actually think he might have just tipped out of, say, a Hanscom, because I do think they feel he can play in the middle order if they get funky. So they're the 2 keepers. Nothing wrong with that. All-rounders, so we mentioned Webster and then young Cooper Connolly. And I really like the Cooper Connolly selection. This is, he's come through the underage system, much like Sam Constance, been a star, went on the limited overs tour in England. Every time he's gone up a level, he's made runs. He's having a very good big bash. And I think it's an inspired selection. I think it's the right thing to do. They have to be bold because the team, is turning over very quickly. And every level Connolly goes, he doesn't look out of place. So I'm looking forward to seeing him over there. I'm not sure he'll play, but I
don't think he will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, as I said before, he won't play, but just the experience of training with the guys, being exposed to those conditions and learning different things about the game, would be great for him. Because who knows, he could play in a couple of years in India. But I like the decision as well. I know he has very limited first-class experience, but just for the learnings that he will undertake over there, it's big for him. But I was before about Inglis. If they are to play him, where would they fit him? Like same with McSweeney. I was thinking about it today because Travis Head was really good at opener a couple of years ago in India. And if they were to make a really bold move, do you leave out one of Constance or Khawaja, put Travis Head to opener and play a McSweeney or an Inglis in the middle? So you've picked our squad, but I still think we've got some big decisions to make about the makeup of the 11 for Gaul, because I think Travis Head is probably best suited at the top in these conditions, where you're not coming in against the older ball, you're not coming in after a couple of quick wickets, you're starting the innings against the harder ball, maybe comes onto the bat really well. Because in comparison to Australia, the best time to bat in the subcontinent is usually up top with the new ball. Might be interesting to see if Australia make that call. I don't know if they will. I think they'll go with Khawaja and Constance, but it'd be fascinating to see if they make that decision.
Yeah, George Bailey was asked about that in the press conference. He gave nothing away. He said it's obviously an option to move Travis up the top of the order. And, that'll be a call for McDonald and Smith. He actually said, look, I don't know about you, Sharball, but if I was doing it, I would just drop Khawaja. In fact, I wouldn't have even taken Khawaja on this tour. I think he
Yeah.
just did enough in those last two test matches with the 50 and the 40 to maybe salvage his test career till the World Test Championship final.
Yeah.
But I would actually much prefer a Head and Constas opening in Sri Lanka, at least in the first test match. If Constas looks completely all at sea, maybe you can swap him out for the second one. But again, we need to get some test cricket into these
Yeah.
up and comers. Although when we play, in the West Indies in the Ashes, there'll be different conditions. I just think anytime you can get a cap in a guy like Constas is a
Yeah.
learning experience for him. And he
It'll be a big
showed,
learning experience. Yeah.
yeah. So
Because in addition to the delivery that comes into him from the fast bowler, he's also got a bit of an issue, I think, against left arm spin. He's been dismissed by left arm spin a few times in recent weeks. And Prabhath Jayasuriya over there in Gaul is going to test him. So it'll be a great learning curve for him as well. This is what it is now. You pick the 19-year-old. He's going to learn a lot. And this is the right time to do it. So, yeah, I'd play him as well. They'll probably play Khawaja there for the experience, and he's been good against spin in recent years as well. So,
do you think he
that's
should
what I
go on the
reckon they'll do.
tour?
Probably not, just because you can get some more experience in the other guys. You can blood and a McSweeney in the middle or a Josh Inglis in the middle and give them some very important experience for the future, particularly given we've qualified. But on the flip side, I can understand Khawaja being there because he's been very good against spin in recent years. He has scored runs in the subcontinent. So, yeah. And if you win, because we haven't won a series in Asia for 14 years? I think the last time was 2011. So they're probably thinking about that as well. We want to get a win in Asia and keep the winning feeling going, I suppose. But it's nice to see other guys get blooded in, is my point. Like your McSweeney in the middle and give them that experience because you got a couple of years in India and Khawaja won't be there.
Yeah.
So, it is what it is, I suppose.
Yeah, I think we have to move on from Khawaja as soon as possible. I think they've got to make the tough call. And pragmatically, they talk about there's some speculation that Khawaja should get a chance at playing in that World Test Championship final because he helped get them there. Well, this is a major title that Australia wants to win. You've got to pick your best side. I can't see Khawaja doing well against Rabada and Jansen and South Africa's quicks. Like that's the one area he's really struggled is that extra pace, and that's what happens when you almost in your mid 40s. So, I would so then the other inclusions with the bat, well, obviously Smith, Head, but Webster, the all-rounder, but you've got McSweeney being called back in. I really like this pick. He showed enough in those 3 tests that
Absolutely
he could be a big part of Australia's middle order in the future. He plays spin well.
Sure. Yeah, he's a patient guy, technically pretty sound. You don't have a bigger baptism of fire than Bumrah. And, on those spicy pitches, the first 3 tests. And I thought he batted time, particularly in Adelaide. And that was crucial, batting under lights and setting up the win there for the Aussies when we were 1-0 down. So, yeah, he's got good temperament. He's got a good technique. And as I was saying before, it'd be great to see him at least one test in this series to see what he's made of and give him that taste of subcontinent conditions. But, yeah, I'm happy to see him in and around the squad. I think, yeah, you're right. He'll be part of that middle order in the future. And that puts the onus on Marnus to have a good series because there's a bit of pressure on him, I reckon. He's got to perform because there's other guys knocking on the door, Menace. There's other guys knocking on the door now.
Where are you on Marnus?
I'd still give him this series and I'd give him West Indies in the World Test Championship final. But if he has a bad year, then I might look at someone else for the Ashes. I don't know if you think the same because it's been a long run of middling form for Marnus. And the way he's getting out in the gully, that shot at Sydney in the second innings was concerning for me because he's getting out the same way a few times now. And it's like, you've got the chance to score big. You got the chance to get in and make the big scores. But, you've scored 350s, but, what you made your name for yourself was making the big scores early in your career. This is a big, big series for him, I think, as well. He's got to really step up.
Yeah, there's been actually a couple of people in the media that have said it, and I agree with it, that, you need your number 3 scoring big hundreds.
Yeah.
Because that's what turns the tide of a test match. They can't be, just battling away like Marnus has. One thing I respect with Marnus is he sort of implied during the summer that he doesn't feel in the best form, but he's trying to do a job. So I like that because the good players score runs even when they're not in good form.
Yeah.
I agree with you. He has to turn it around this year because Australia has a lot of options for the Ashes. You could move, Smith up to 3. You could have McSweeney at 4,
Yep.
Head at 5, your all-rounder at 6, whether that's Webster or Green. And then there's the option, you're going to try and get Webster and Green both in the same
You
top
could put
top
Green at
6.
4.
Yep.
You could put Green
So-
at 4. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
maybe
So
even
there's
3.
options there. Yeah, there's options there, Menace. So big year coming up for Marnus because, as I've said, there's other guys knocking on the door who are good enough players, particularly what we saw with Cam Green when he got an opportunity to bat at number 4. That 170 New Zealand was huge in Australia qualifying for the World Test Championship final. That 2-0 series win over there. So he's clearly got the game. Number 4 is his best position. So Marnus has to step up this year.
Yeah, and with Green, he'll probably bowl less when he comes back. I imagine the first year back, he'll just be working up. So you could ask a bit more of his batting. Say, look, bat you 3 or 4, and then, you're bowling less anyway and go from there.
Yep. And that's why it would make more sense then to play Green and Webster in the team. So Webster does a little bit more of the all-round work, the bowling, and Green can sort of settle in and bowl maybe a couple overs here and there, but focus more on his batting. Spot on.
Yeah. Some reports in the Daily Telegraph about, the redemption of Steve Smith. This is the first tour he's been given the captaincy of. He'll be wearing the captain's blazer. He's leading this team. I've never had a problem with him returning to the captaincy after Sandpaper Gate, and I think he probably should have been given the job ahead of Pat Cummins when Tim Payne had to leave the position. But where do you sit on it? You one of those hardliners that think he should never wear the blazer again?
Sorry, my mic went MIA there. No, I've got no. Just my mic's playing up a bit. That should be all right. That should be all right. I've got no issue with it personally because he's served his time. He did 1 year out of the game, and yes, what he did and what the guys did was very wrong in Cape Town. But it's a while back. They've done their time. It was a big punishment. He's learned from it. He's still very good tactically. I've got no issue with it. I know some people are against it, but what's best for the team at the moment? Steve Smith leading. I'm fine with it. He's learned from it. He's done his time. It was a long time ago. Move on, I say. That's my view. I've got no problem.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think, maybe you could have given the captaincy to Travis Head to give them
Maybe.
experience in those conditions. But I think if you're taking such a young squad, then you actually want someone like Smith at the helm.
Agree.
Someone, a wise head. And I'm really curious to see how he goes. I've only seen him do it in spells, but I'm just thrilled for the guy. When you look back at what happened in Sandpaper Gate, the penalties were very, very harsh. They paid the price a long, long time. So
No doubt about it.
We've got Warner maybe about to win the Big Bash, and maybe Steve Smith will win the series in Sri Lanka, and maybe Cameron Bancroft will be there at Lords in the World Test Championship final, opening with Sam Constas.
You reckon Bancroft could be there? I can't see it happening.
I just think you've got to just treat the final as a one-off game.
Yeah.
We need to win, and so Constas say to open. I think Kawaj has done him. I think he's got to go. So someone like a Bancroft who does really well in county cricket, very experienced in those conditions. Maybe you just sort of parachute them in and say, "Do us a job."
Yeah, I think they love Usman, and I want to give him that perfect send-off, if that is his send-off with the World Test Championship final. That's how I see it happening. That could be his last test, if I was to predict it. But yeah, I can't see them dropping Usman for a World Test Championship final, given, what he's contributed to the team over the last few years. I think they'll give him that send-off. And then maybe for West Indies, you look at a different opener there. That's my prediction. That's what I reckon they'll do.
I like it. Well, let's just hope Usman isn't standing on the outfield Lords watching South Africa lift the World Test Championship final.
I hope not.
Shavel, thanks for joining me to wrap up the Sri Lankan squad. No real surprises. I think an eye to the future, but a lot of these players have been in and around the Australian team in the past. So good job by George Bailey and the selectors. I think they've had overall a pretty good summer. I think they identified pretty early on this summer that they did need to start regenerating, that the
Yeah.
slide was on, and they
Yeah.
reacted to it, and they found, they unearthed a few gold nuggets in Constance Webster and McSweeney.
Yeah. Look, they didn't panic after Perth, but they did make a couple of changes throughout the series. And I think the Bo Webster one, I was telling you before the second test that he should have been in the side in Adelaide. That's what I would have done. Bo Webster should have been there early when Mitch Marsh pulled up sore, couldn't bowl effectively. Just doesn't have enough runs in him to cater for that. So, but look, they went with it in the end, and I thought Webster was unbelievable on debut on a difficult pitch. His batting was outstanding. I thought he bowled very tidy, and his catching was great. I think we've got a little gem there for the next few years. So, very positive.
Absolutely. All right, Charbel, thanks for joining me. Where
mate.
can the listeners find your content?
Yep, you can find me on CrickBlog on Twitter, crickblog.net, the website, or you can find me on the CrickBlog podcast is where we do some of our best work.
All right, thanks everybody for joining me on the Cricket Unfiltered podcast, and we'll be back soon with another episode.